Welcome to Anime Fanfiction Audiobook. Do not forget to like and subscribe. Chapter 3: Dying Will Armament. 3 months later. Giotto slowly opened his eyes. In these 3 months, he and Reborn had been sailing in addition to replenishing the necessary food. Because of the beginning of the era of the great pirates, they encountered a lot of trouble along the way. Of course, it was not much. Those ordinary pirates could be easily dealt with. It could even be said that their existence, in a sense, was to give resources to Giotto and Reborn, who were sailing on the sea. Until now, on this small boat, Giotto had accumulated 315 million, which was given to him by the pirates. It seems I'll be filthy rich by the time we get home, right, Reborn? Giotto made a rare joke and said to the baby in a suit with a bubble popping from his nose. Now is not the time to talk about this, Giotto. Those guys have bad intentions. With the snot bubble popped, Reborn jumped directly on Giotto's shoulder and pointed to the pier of the island in front of them. There was a medium-sized pirate ship there, and a group of ghost-like pirates was moving things from the houses of the people of the island. Moreover, the methods were quite rough, and many houses were seriously damaged. Some people might have lost their lives because of resistance. I will take care of those guys. Giotto frowned deeply. The dying will of flame on his forehead was instantly ignited, and the Vongola eye gloves on his hands also ignited with orange flames. When the flames burned, his entire aura became completely different from before. In the next moment, the flames on Giotto's hands burst, and he swiftly leaped towards the pier of the island. Hey, you damn guys, stop! On the island, a young man suddenly rushed out with a pistol. He stood in front of the pirates without fear, pointed the gun at a guy who was looting and stopped him loudly. Huh? Brat, who do you think that gun can scare? I don't know how many times I have been shot, but do you know what happened to those guys who left bullet holes in my body? One of the pirates tore off his shirt, and there were dozens of wounds from bullets on his body. In the end, all their heads are ripped off by these hands. I can clearly hear their wailing and begging for mercy as I walk slowly. However, your little head is a bit troublesome. After all, it will fall off and roll under my feet even with just the slightest strength I muster, ha 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 ha. The arrogant laughter spread all around, and they continued to drag the things that were stolen back to the pirate ship. As for the red-haired young man holding the gun, lent him some courage. Would he dare to shoot? None of them had the courage to shoot the pirate. Shoot! Giotto had already appeared behind the young man. His eyes flashed with a cold light. He looked at the pirates and slowly said, "Since you have the courage to stand up, why don't you use the weapon in your hand to protect your home? You have already taken the first step, why don't you continue?" The young man trembled and slowly turned his head. The moment he saw Giotto, his eyes widened, and his face was full of surprise and joy. "Brother Giotto! Boy, do you want to meddle in other people's business?" The big, burly pirate suddenly turned around. Although Giotto's appearance surprised him, his eyes were still full of contempt, and he didn't care about it. Giotto nodded to the young man, then took 2 steps forward and stood in front of the pirate. "There will be a lot of powerful people in this era of pirates, but you are not among them. Also, I don't like to meddle in other people's business, but Second Island is my hometown. Even Whitebeard can't do whatever he pleases here." As a transmigrator, this was a place where he could feel a sense of belonging. So, no matter who it was, even Whitebeard, who was known as the strongest in the sea, was not allowed to make trouble there. Ha ha ha. What are you talking about, idiot? And Whitebeard? Listen, idiot, even if you're Gold Roger himself, I don't care. Not only the burly pirate but even the rest of the pirate crews also laughed at him. Even Whitebeard couldn't do whatever he pleased there? If it were really Whitebeard, he would probably destroy this island with one punch. This noble young man in front of him had some problems with his brain. Then, at this moment, everyone only saw an afterimage flashing past. The palm burning with the dying will flame suddenly grabbed the pirate's head, and then... crack! The powerful force combined with the impact of dying will flame, the pirate's head was directly smashed to the ground. The ground cracked because of this, and even the surrounding people could feel the ground shaking at this moment. The surrounding people, pirates, and the people of Second Island were all stunned. They could not see Giotto's movements clearly just now. But they knew really well that this was not something that ordinary people could do. "Brothers, kill him. How dare you provoke our skull pirates? Cut him into pieces." Although they were a little afraid of Giotto's strength, their pirate had a lot of crews, and they could also strengthen their courage. In their opinion, even if Giotto had some strength, he could not defeat so many of them. But soon, they would learn how mistaken their actions were. These pirates were not even fighting in the eyes of Giotto. In the New World, even if there were several times more of them, they would not pose any threat to him. The people of the Skull Pirates rushed out. Giotto waved his right hand burning with the dying will flame, and the flame of the sky attribute instantly spread all around. All the pirates near him were covered by the flames. Only a figure could be seen shuttling in the flame. In just a few moments, dozens of pirates all fell to the ground. Then, Giotto raised his left hand to his chest and took back the dying will flame. His eyes fell on the pirate ship not far away. "Are you still going to hide on this ship?" As his voice fell, a strong man about 3 meters tall walked down from the pirate ship step by step. His left hand was holding a sawtooth knife made of bones, and his face was cold. His eyes were fixed on Giotto, without batting an eye at his subordinates, as if he did not care about the life and death of his subordinates at all. "Boy, you're pretty skilled, do you want to be my subordinate?" The strong man stood less than 10 meters away from Giotto and grinned. The aura emitted from his body was different from that of the soldiers and pirates. It was a kind of air that made people's hair stand on end. This strong man looked like a person who could stand his ground against pirates of the New World. "All your subordinates have been killed by me, and you're still recruiting me?" Giotto's face was calm, and his tone was normal, but there was an undetectable ridicule in the depths of his eyes. "Ha ha ha. They're just a group of expendable trash that can be thrown away at any time, what is there to care about? Only men who are strong enough can really sail freely in the sea, so, your value is higher than those trash on the ground. Of course, I don't mind a strong man like you." The strong man didn't even think about it and directly belittled his subordinates to the point that they were worthless. When he heard these words, Giotto subconsciously frowned. He hated this kind of guy. "Ah, the ground is full of trash? Think about it according to what you said. What makes you think that you are not trash?" For the strong man, the trash pirates on the ground were trash, but for Giotto, this guy in front of him who regarded his companions as trash was worse than trash. "Kid, you better be more respectful when you speak to me. I am the leader of the Skull Pirates, Dimo-sama, with a bounty of 57 million. I'm completely different from the trash you just knocked out." Dimo shouted. His entire presence was intimidating as he slashed down at Giotto with the bone knife in his hand. The smile on his face also became more and more arrogant. This kind of battle made him extremely excited. Imagining the blood spurting everywhere made him even more excited. The moment his bone knife landed, the afterimage that Giotto left on the spot was directly cut open from the middle. That's right, it was only an afterimage that was cut open. "A bounty of 57 million? Looks like your bounty has nothing to do with your strength." The voice came from behind Dimo. In that instant, Giotto used the dying will flame to flash at high speed and directly appeared behind him. In the next moment, his right hand clenched into a fist and then quickly became dark. At the same time, the dying will flame also became extremely condensed. Dying will armament, bone crusher. The combination of the dying will flame and the color of arms hockey was quite terrifying. When he was on Roger's ship, this technique that was born from the combination of two techniques was taught to him by a senior on the ship. The technique taught by Douglas Bullitt. Chapter 4: The Vongola Family. Douglas Bullitt was known as the Demon Heir. One of the reasons why he had this title was that he had fused his color of arms hockey with his color of the Supreme King hockey. His speed and strength had been greatly enhanced, like a devil from hell. Based on this technique, when he was on the ship, he had instructed Giotto to do the same to create dying wool armament. Ah! An ear-piercing scream came out from Dimo's mouth. This scream only lasted for less than 2 seconds. The back of his skull was severely injured by Giotto, and it directly shattered. The naked eye could clearly see that his head had clearly changed shape. The 3-meter-long body fell straight in front of him, with pale eyes still full of disbelief. He was also a pirate who had roamed the sea for a period of time, but he was so easily knocked down by a young man. Everything happened too fast, and even the people around did not react. When the Dimo fell down, everyone cheered with excitement. Giotto, you are really amazing. You came back in time, Giotto. There were also some people who knew Giotto before. After all, Giotto grew up on the island, and he only left because of the arrival of Roger pirates a few years ago. He left his hometown and sailed on the sea. Therefore, he hadn't been away for long. The people on this island certainly hadn't forgotten him. After all, when he was on the island, Giotto had been very conspicuous. Not only his golden orange hair but also his constant change from childhood to adulthood and his persistence had left a deep impression on the people on the island. Perhaps many people didn't know his name was Giotto, but when he mentioned the blonde boy who often trained by the sea, more than 60 of the people on the island would suddenly realize. Oh. So it was that boy. He let out a sigh. Big brother Giotto, I'm sorry. Just now, The young man who had stood out earlier quickly ran to Giotto's side. He lowered his head and was on the verge of tears. There was unwillingness and some guilt on his face. Although he had stood up just now, he did not have the courage to pull the trigger. At this moment, the dying wool flame on Giotto's body had been completely extinguished, and his expression had become gentle. Crowley, it's good enough to take the first step. And in the situation just now, if you shoot rashly, it will cause more trouble. Hearing this, Crowley was stunned and then nodded determinedly. He was only 2 years younger than Giotto, and he had been training with Giotto since childhood. However, he did not have the opportunity to board the Pirate King's ship. I know. Come to think of it, brother Giotto, how long can you stay this time? Can you take me with you when you go out to sea? Crowley said with a face full of expectation. To be honest, he also wanted to become like Giotto and strong enough to protect his hometown. He didn't want to see the scene of the pirates wreaking havoc in their homes and his life, especially when he saw how powerless he was, which made him feel deep hatred for his powerless self. I don't intend to sail out to sea again. Giotto smiled, then patted Crowley on the shoulder and said slowly, my luggage and companions are on the small boat over there. If I remember correctly, your navigation skills are very good, right? Crowley was stunned for a few seconds, and then his expression immediately became excited. I got it. After answering, he immediately jumped into the sea and quickly swam toward the small boat where Reborn was. Seeing his reaction, Giotto couldn't help but cover his forehead. He was planning to ask Crowley to help him maneuver the ship, but who would have thought that this kid would actually jump into the sea? Although the distance wasn't too far, this behavior was more or less a bit of an illness. Second Island. This island was famous for its hot springs, and it was also one of the magma reservoirs in the New World. It was rumored that this island was called Endpoints. There were 3 of them in the New World, and if all of them were destroyed, then the entire New World would be destroyed. With the world government's cover-up, except for some marine and world government's top brass, everyone else thought that the Endpoints was just a legend to deceive children, but Giotto knew that it was real. However, this was not what he needed to care about right now. In any case, no one would have any ideas about the Endpoints right now. However, he needed to pay more attention to this. After all, this was his hometown to Giotto. After Crowley brought back the things on the small ship and Reborn, Giotto instantly purchased a large villa near the volcano of Second Island. This would be his home and also the starting point for his family. Brother Giotto, I have brought all the people here. At this time, Crowley came here with a dozen or so youngsters. These youngsters were gathered by him on Second Island. Those who wanted to protect the island with their own strength. The era of the great pirates had begun. Now that he had returned to Second Island, it was time to start his own business. This was the task given to him by the system. The first step was to create the Vongola family. In the very beginning, the Vongola family was a vigilante group that protected the local residents. Therefore, after Giotto purchased the big villa, he asked Crowley to gather some youngsters who wanted to pick up their weapons and protect the island in this chaotic era. Seeing these young people, Giotto slowly stood up and swept his gaze across everyone. I think on the way here, Crowley has already told you what we are going to do by gathering together. Everyone knows what happened before, but at that time, no one stood up to resist. At this rate, the island can only be at the mercy of others, especially in this era. I do not want to see such a thing happen. And if we want to put an end to such things, there is only one way to go, and that is to become strong enough. One of the young men stared at Giotto and suddenly asked, "Then Brother Giotto, are we pirates when we band together?" On the sea, people were either marine or a pirate. Hearing this question, Giotto shook his head and said, "No, we are completely different from the pirates. If we have to say it, we may be a special mafia. If you are willing to join, then stay. If you don't, just turn around and leave." After a long time, no one left, including Crowley. Perhaps it was because of the ordeal with the Skull Pirates earlier, but their eyes became more and more determined. Seeing such a scene, a smile of relief appeared on Giotto's face. Very good, then from now on, the Vongola family is established. Thank you for listening. Do not forget to like and subscribe.